Guys, one of the reasons you don't understand English well, the English spoken by native speakers well, is you don't understand English idioms. Native speakers use a lot of idioms, a series of idioms in their conversations to express different meanings, and the exact reason why you don't understand what they're saying, apart from not understanding the words, not understanding the grammatical structures, is actually the fact that you don't understand the idioms used by native speakers, which is why in today's video, I'm going to be focusing your attention on some of these idioms. We're going to learn them together, and you will avoid sounding like a textbook by learning these idioms because you will get to use them and you will sound more like native speakers. Your English conversations will be more similar to those of native speakers. So let's get started. The first English idiom used by native speakers is to hang in the balance. To hang in the balance. Once again, to hang in the balance. But what is the meaning of hanging in the balance or to hang in the balance? Let me say something hangs in the balance. It means something doesn't have a clear future. Something has a future replete with or full of uncertainties, or something, the future of something is not that clear, is not obvious, or we can't really predict the future of something because it is so unstable, or something is uncertain, something cannot be really predicted because of the uncertainties involved. Let me give you an example of this idiom. The future of the peace talks hangs in the balance. The future of the peace talks hangs in the balance. Once again, the future of the peace talks hangs in the balance, which means the future of the peace talks, peace conversations, or peace negotiations is not clear, is replete with uncertainties, is full of uncertainties. No one can predict what will happen in that regard because the future of peace talks is unclear, is uncertain, is replete with uncertainties. So, when we say something hangs in the balance, we're emphasizing the idea that it doesn't have a clear future or it has a future replete with uncertainties, the one that we cannot predict because of the instability involved. I'm pretty much sure that you will hear this idiom a lot on TV, on news channels, on social media, and in so many other places. So this is one of those native idioms that can confuse the students. A native speaker may use the idiom of hang in the balance. For example, the future of this or that or something hangs in the balance, and you might, come up with the idea of, hey, hang in the balance, what is the meaning of that? I know the meaning of the word hang, but it doesn't make any sense when we use the word hang with the word balance. Hang in the balance, what is that? So one of the reasons you don't understand the English spoken by native speakers clearly is the fact that you lack the proper knowledge of English idioms, which we are trying to improve in today's video. Now let's get to the second idiomatic expression used by native speakers that you need to learn to avoid sounding like a textbook and to speak in more natural English, which is to raise eyebrows. To raise eyebrows. Once again, to raise eyebrows. When something raises eyebrows, it surprises everyone, it catches everyone by surprise, or it makes everyone disapprove it, or it leads to everyone's disapproval. So when something raises eyebrows, it is surprising in a disapproving way. In other words, it is so surprising that it may not be accepted, or it might be disapproved by others. So, to raise eyebrows means to catch someone by surprise, or to surprise people, or to make people feel surprised or shocked. An example of this idiom. The new trade deal raised eyebrows in international circles. The new trade deal raised eyebrows in international circles. The new trade deal raised eyebrows in international circles, which means the new trade deal made everyone feel surprised or shocked in the international circles. Now we're getting to the third English idiom that you have the opportunity to learn to avoid sounding like a textbook and to get your English closer to the one spoken by native speakers, which is to cross the line. To cross the line. Once again, to cross the line. When someone crosses the line, they behave in a weird, strange, and unacceptable way. So, when we say that someone is crossing the line, we're trying to emphasize that someone is behaving in an unacceptable way, in a weird, strange, and unacceptable way. An example: just because you're a manager, it doesn't mean that you have the right to cross the line. Just because you're a manager, it doesn't mean that you have the right to cross the line, which means just because you're a manager, it does not mean that you have the right, the power, the authority, or the permission to behave in an unacceptable way, or to behave rudely, aggressively towards others, or to behave in a strange or weird way. Are you ready for the next English idiom that enables you to speak like native speakers and to understand native English better? Of course you are. Which is to put something on the back burner. To put something on the back burner. Once again, to put something on the back burner. When you put something on the back burner, you delay or postpone dealing with an issue. Let's say there's a problem, there's an issue that you have to deal with, but instead of dealing with it immediately, right away, straight away, you postpone or delay dealing with it. Maybe because you're lazy, maybe because you don't have enough time to do so, maybe because you lack the energy to do so, or for one reason or another, or for any other reasons. So when you put something on the back burner, you delay or stop dealing with an issue that you should deal with immediately or right away. An example of this idiom: healthcare reform has been put on the back burner for now. Healthcare reform has been put on the back burner for now, which means dealing with the issues or the problems of the healthcare system has been delayed, has been postponed, and no one has done anything about it. No one has taken action. No one has not done anything about it. Had you ever heard this idiomatic expression before, guys? Before this video, before watching this video, to put something on the back burner? I'm pretty much sure that if you had heard this idiom before, somewhere on TV, on social media, or anywhere, you would have been surprised, and you would not have been able to understand what the person using it is trying to say, or what type of meaning they're trying to express. To put something on the back burner, right? It's a beautiful idiom, but a little bit difficult for language learners to understand. Which is why I strongly believe that if you really want to improve your English to such a level at which you can productively communicate with native speakers at their level, not only do you have to improve your knowledge of grammar, also your command of English vocabulary, but also your command of English idioms. If you do not understand idioms, that means you will not be able to understand native speakers like that well, or like so closely that you can communicate with them effectively or productively. Now we're getting to the next English idiom that you need to learn to stop sounding like a textbook and to take your English to the next level, at which you can communicate with native speakers as accurately as they communicate with one another, which is to walk a fine line. To walk a fine line. To walk a fine line. Usually we say to walk a fine line between, let's say, A and B. When you walk a fine line between A and B, you try to strike a balance between A and B. You try to maintain a balance between A and B. Especially two opposite ideas, two opposite sides, or two opposite things. When you walk a fine line between, let's say, A and B, you try to strike a balance between A and B, which are two opposing ideas, two opposing sides, two opposing things, things that are opposite of one another, things that might contradict, one another, or things that might contrast with each other. The president must walk a fine line between diplomacy and strength. The president must walk a fine line between diplomacy and strength. Once again, the president must walk a fine line between diplomacy and strength, which means the president must strike a balance between diplomacy and strength, which are sometimes, when it comes to politics, two opposing ideas or two opposite sides and ideas. Now we're getting to the next English idiom that you need to know to sound like native speakers, to speak like native speakers, or to say the least, even if you don't speak like native speakers, to enhance and improve your knowledge of English idioms and understand native speakers better, which is a wake-up call. A wake-up call. Once again, a wake-up call. A wake-up call is usually a warning that leads to a change for the better, a positive change, or that leads to something positive happening. Let me give you an example. The floods served as a wake-up call about climate change. The floods served as a wake-up call about climate change, which means the floods served as or worked as a warning about climate change, served as a warning or something that would notify everyone of the climate change in order for people, governments, and everyone to take action positively and make a change for the better, or to try to, make all the necessary changes for the better, or to try to change something positively to, let's say, tackle or deal with the issue of climate change. And now we're getting to the final idiom of today's video that you need to learn to be able to improve your English, especially your command of English idioms, and speak English better, which is to put someone on notice. To put someone on notice. Once again, to put someone on notice. When you put someone on notice, you try to warn someone officially and publicly. You try to warn someone publicly and officially. You try to give someone a public and official warning about something. An example. The regulator has put the airline on notice over safety concerns. The regulator has put the airline on notice over safety concerns. Once again, the regulator has put the airline on notice over safety concerns, which means the regulator has given the airline a warning about safety concerns, or has publicly and officially warned the airline about safety concerns. That's about all, guys. In today's video, you'll learn 7 beautiful English idioms that can be added to your knowledge of English idioms to be able to speak English better by using them and also understand native speakers better, which leads to a much more effective and productive level of communication and interaction with native speakers. Let's review these idioms once again together super quickly. Hang in the balance, hang in the balance. Raise eyebrows, raise eyebrows. Cross the line, cross the line. Put something on the back burner, put something on the back burner. Walk a fine line, walk a fine line. A wake-up call, a wake-up call. Put someone on notice, put someone on notice. Thank you for watching today's video. Make sure you like this video in support of your YouTube teacher, in support of your favorite YouTube English channel, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'll be back soon with another video.